What's happening, folks? Back with the next piece in our second day of Classical Days. Thank you to all those taking part in this journey. And we're going to listen to the Aladdin Suite by Danish composer Carl Nielsen. So the Aladdin Suite was derived from a larger composition by Nielsen, written I think between 1917 and 1919 for what was not an opera. I think it was technically a play featuring theater music, and it was based on the Aladdin story from the 1001 Nights, which is a collection of Middle Eastern folklore. But yes, there was a libretto or a literary work from about 100 years earlier, early 19th century, and the play was based on that work, and Nielsen did over 80 minutes. It was a very large score that he did for this play, Aladdin, which I think technically has a longer name, but it's usually just referred to as Aladdin. So the suite, which takes 7 small parts from the larger 80-minute or so score, is very popular and has a lot of dances in it. It's a very energetic suite. All of the parts that are used in the suite are quite short. They're like 2-3 minutes long. So it's a small selection of a much larger theater music score for this play. I originally had a CD, which might still be in my collection, but I spent like 45 minutes looking for it, and I was getting very frustrated, so I don't have the CD to put here now. But I do have this somewhere in my collection, I think. Either that or it was somehow lost. Regardless, we will move ahead without the CD here, but this performance is by the Gothenburg Symphony Orchestra, which that's the, I believe, second largest city in Sweden after Stockholm. And I think the orchestra goes back to the early 20th century. It's conducted by Neeme Järvi. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, either given name or surname, but it's definitely a name I've seen on different releases and I've heard on classical radio. But he's an Estonian-American conductor. And yes, I think he was very prolific in the second half of the 20th century in particular. I think he's quite old now. I think he's like maybe 90 years old or something to that effect. In any case, yes, this is the Aladdin Suite, conducted by Neeme Järvi and performed by the Gothenburg Symphony Orchestra. And I'm trying to remember, this first movement, I believe, is referred to as the Oriental Festival March. So here we go with the Carl Nielsen Aladdin Suite, first movement, Oriental Festival March. remarkable, right? So yes, you can hear the march, the rolling snare drums, the big cymbal crashes. I love those brass flourishes with that main lead melody, which has a lot of fantasy and drama to it. Now there's that, I don't know if it's middle, I think it's technically past the halfway mark, but that slower or lighter section which is surrounded by all the fanfare and the drama. So I like the sudden shift into a more like mental or emotionally considered section, which then again is followed by another dramatic crescendo of the march. So yeah, I think it's very dynamic and very powerful and striking. I have a quick anecdote. I remember many, many years ago when the CD, which again should be over there somewhere, but I spent a lot of time looking for it, couldn't find it, so we'll see how that turns out. But yes, I had that same CD now like 23, 24 years ago. It was very early 2000s. And I remember my friend who was into like punk rock, and he was a skateboard guy, like not just casually, but he was like involved with a skateboard company that they shoot like skate videos, and it was his job, it was like what he did. And he wasn't particularly into classical music, but he knew that I listened to it a lot. And I remember us hanging out one night, and he was like, oh, like you got a lot of classical, like, because I had an entire dedicated CD booklet in my car with classical CDs in it. That's how, in my early 20s, I was really like diving into classical music head first, even though for multiple decades before that I had already been interested in it, from the time I was growing up in my dad's household, who, always listened to classical music. But he was like, oh, like put something good on. And so I thought, like something with a bit of power, something with a bit of flair. I put this Aladdin suite on, and the first movement or the first part of it starts with such energy and drama, and he instantly was like, oh my god, this is incredible. Like, is a lot of the stuff you listen to like this? Because you gotta like burn this CD for me. Like, what the heck? So yeah, it caught the ear of my friends back then who weren't particularly interested in classical music, which I think is a testament to the powerful appeal of certain pieces and performances. So once again, shout out to all those taking this this classical days journey, singular, and also big shout out to Carl Nielsen and his Aladdin suite, which we have just begun, and I'll see you in a moment for the next part. Peace.